Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Just kidding. Jack went up to butcher Jill and came back with a pail of blood.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to 31 Days of Horror. I am Morgan Film Fan. Let's jump into some scares. Jack and Jill, The Hills of Hell is an independent, low-budget British movie that was released by ITN Distribution. And this, unbeknown to me, is actually a sequel, which is kind of unfortunate and strange because my OCD tends to make me want to watch films in their order, and only when I started this film and was looking up some information on it did I realize that it's actually the second film in a, after a first one. However, I just went with it anyway, and I'm sure the continuity will come back to me later if I ever watch the first one. What we have going on in Jack and Jill, The Hills of Hell is it starts off with these three young people. I don't know how old they are, but you got one guy and two girls. They're traveling in a car, and then their car breaks down, and they run into the infamous Jack and Jill, who are obviously up to no good and are not the friendly nursery rhyme Jack and Jill, as we already know from the front cover. And they're picked off fairly quickly. And then, for whatever reason, we backtrack a year instead of a year forward, or 1 year later. It's 1 year earlier. Not really any reason in particular why that happens, but we're introduced to another group of friends, and they're, talking around a campfire and, discussing the legend of Jack and Jill, how they were two kids, escaped from some mental ward with their mother, and then their mother was killed, and then they had to run off into the hills, and stuff you really don't care about. You're just waiting for the kills to happen, essentially. And then we're introduced to yet another character whose name is Josephine, and she plays the mother of one of the girls in this group of friends that we were just introduced to, that were around the fire and whatnot. Her name is Eden. Sorry, the daughter is named Eden, and then her mother Josephine has been looking for her for what seems to be weeks and or months, and the police are of course not doing anything for the situation, and she is losing all hope and decides to take matters into her own hands. So a friend of hers hires these people who are pretty knowledgeable when it comes to search and rescue, and they know the forest, they know the land, and they go on to this search and rescue mission for Josephine's daughter Eden, yes. And all hell breaks loose when, of course, Jack and Jill start to attack and pick them off one by one, slasher style. And basically the film carries on from there. Eventually they decide to split up, which is the biggest mistake you should always know not to make if you know horror films whatsoever. And when they decide to split off in their random ways, it only ensues for more hell to break loose, pretty much. And the kills, they're fairly okay. I didn't mind the practical effects and the gore used when it came to people being hacked up. Could have been way better, obviously, but obviously there was a little bit of budget restraints with that. And I think the best thing that I can give this film would be the cinematography and the locations. Where this film was set was actually very beautiful looking. They used a lot of English countrysides and ocean kind of beach settings, and the hills and the mountainous areas and all the greenery definitely looked very, very nice, especially with the sun captures and the sunsets and the sunrises. Very, very well done with the camera work, albeit the camera movements were pretty strange most of the film. like I said, the cinematography and the visuals when it came to the settings was definitely there. And that's about all the positives that I have for this movie. Now, this film just didn't work for me. The characters and the actors and actresses do well enough for what they're asked to do. However, the direction and the plot of this film is just tremendously weak. One thing I have to say about Jack and Jill themselves is they look very basic and half-assed when it came to their costume and makeup design. They just didn't look threatening whatsoever. They looked like average humans. Just, Jack had like some kind of raggedy hoodie on, and Jill had some cloak of some kind that also looked kind of raggedy, and that's about it. They had some eyeliner around their eyes and this weird-looking skin-looking mask, but they could have looked way more threatening. I really wish, and I don't know, I could be wrong if the director did this, but I really wish that the director would take some notes from films like The Strangers, because there certainly were times in this film that I could see a lot of Strangers elements, and if the direction was done in a certain way, utilizing Jack and Jill in more creepy moments and in the shadows or in the background, especially in the cave situations, this could definitely have had a very creepy aesthetic and effect to utilize those characters in a very creepy and unsettling way, and it just didn't go there. Nothing seemed threatening or intimidating whatsoever. One of the characters named Jim eventually finds Jill in her cave right before Jack comes along and attacks him as well. But he just starts intimidating the hell out of Jill, and basically he starts going crazy himself, and this scene kind of really made me wonder, is Jim in here looking for Eden, looking for Josephine's daughter, or did he just come to these hills to find Jill and basically take her out? Because he seemed to have some really strong vendetta over Jill that came out of nowhere, and I'm like, I think he had an ulterior motive when it came to coming to these hills other than saving this girl Eden. We also don't know who the hell Eden is, so she's just one of the girls, like I said, that were explained pretty much at the beginning of the film, but they don't point her out in that scene where she's with her friends, so she could have been any of those girls. And there's some silly moments that happen with the split ups too, where, for example, Sarah will get a damaged ankle and she can't go anywhere, and then the other two ladies are trying to get Jim to stay with Jill and stay with Sarah, my bad. And Sarah is, saying that she could take care of herself, that she could walk, and then it's like a back and forth for what feels like 5 minutes between Jim and Sarah. And Jim's like, "No, I'll stay with you," and Sarah's like, "No, you can go. I can really take care of myself and make it back." And it's just going back and forth, and it's like, if he leaves Sarah, clearly Sarah's going to be shit out of luck if anybody comes around. And guess what happens? Sarah's shit out of luck when when Jack and Jill come around and Jim's already gone and she has a damaged ankle. So, lo and behold. And this film was really scratching at a 1 out of 5 for me. I was going to give this film a 1 out of 5 until the very end when Josephine is arguing with Jill and trying to convince Jill for a long time. And by the way, another thing I didn't like about Jack and Jill's characters is that they gave them voices so these characters could speak. They spoke really slowly and would only say one word at a time, so they had kind of like a speech impediment. You can tell that they've been away in these hills for a long time. But this woman, Josephine, is trying to convince Jill, good luck, that's what I was thinking, in taking her to her daughter, Eden. And she just keeps saying this repeatedly, even though Jill keeps saying, "No, Eden, no, Eden." And she's like, "What does that mean? Take me to Eden. What does that mean?" And it goes on and on. It's like, clearly, probably it means Eden is dead. But she keeps saying, "No, Eden." And Josephine is still like, "Please take me to her." And it gets to a point where she's pretty much begging. And she just won't stop until Jill and Jack eventually do take Josephine to Eden in the cave, and Jill gets down and holds up a skull, and the woman is like, "What is that? What is it? What is it?" And I'm like, "Your daughter, maybe?" and then she finally realizes it, Josephine, I mean. She falls on her knees and she starts to cry, and then Jill is just rubbing her back, and Josephine is just going along with it. Is she in shock? What the heck is going on here? And Jill is rubbing her back, and Josephine is not freaking out, not trying to fight Jill, not saying, "Get off of me," or whatever, after seeing her daughter's skull right in front of her. And then Jill and Jack start having a conversation about to Josephine about losing their mother and that Josephine should be their new mother. And Josephine kind of just sits there and looks at both of them. And then Jack and Jill put both their heads on Josephine's shoulders. And then Josephine is just sitting there like, and then roll credits and then titles. And I'm like, wow. Josephine really cared a lot about Eden. She doesn't want to kill Jill for killing her. She agrees to be their mother, their new mother. I don't fucking know. This film, for that scene alone, went from a 1 to a half star. And hey, I'm not here to shit on films. God bless the people behind this film. And hey, I'm just a film reviewer, not a filmmaker. So don't take anything I say seriously. This is just my personal opinions. This film didn't work for me. Like I said, if they took more notes on films like The Strangers or even the films like the Wrong Turn franchise, they could have done a lot with inspiration from that, especially with the makeup on Jack and Jill. They could have utilized them to very, very villainous and creepy villains and put them in the shadows or utilize scenes where they're coming out of nowhere, where this movie could actually be really well done and really well paced and have creepy moments. Unfortunately, this film is just one that's nice to look at least when it comes to the English countryside, like I said, because those scenes are beautiful. You put this film, and I don't mean this as a diss, I swear, you put this film on mute and you could just watch it visually and enjoy it for its aesthetics. But man, other than that, did Jack and Jill, The Hills of Hell, really miss the mark. And I'm still going to watch the original, which I think is called The Legend of Jack and Jill, the one that comes before this. Like I said, don't crucify me in the comments. If anybody involved in this film sees this review, don't crucify me. This is just my personal opinion. This is 31 Days of Horror, and I'm just reviewing the film as I experienced it, and that's it. Not one for me. Now, if you like these kind of horror takes on nursery rhymes and horror takes on these kids' fairy tale and folklore stories and turning them into horrific scenarios, this film might be for you, but I'm not sure. Now, it's not the budget either, or the independent factor, or the fact that it's a low-budget cinema and that there was not a big budget behind it. That's not it at all, because lots of low-budget films work very well for me. I did watch this film called Hayride on Tubi, and I could say that this film is better than Hayride, so I will give it that. Hayride was one of those unfinishable, unwatchable films for me, and I didn't even bother with Hayride 2, so there's another positive for this one. At least it was better than that, and I already mentioned the positives in this film. It's not all that bad. I actually did think Jack and Jill were creepy. It's just they were so half-assed in their design that they looked too human, and they shouldn't have been vocal characters. They should have been silent characters, in my opinion. But hey, what do I know? I'm just Morgan Film Fan. I just review films. So this is day 6 for 31 Days of Horror, and unfortunately, this film didn't work too well for me. But we'll see how the others go. And I'm still excited to keep this going. So subscribe to Morgan Film Fan if you'd like to listen to my voice, or if you like my film reviews. I will be back with more soon, so stay tuned for those. Check out what's on the channel already. Stay tuned for what's coming up. Until next review, have a good one. Take care and cheers.